a godlike Tryndamere in the side lane becoming a big problem, but we have hit the rift for game number 2 here. It is AXIZ versus Sengoku Gaming, and we'll see a nice little clump up to take out the early vision from SG. Nice little bit of experience in their back pocket.
Yeah, I believe it was shared though, so it's not going to be enough to hit level 2 off of the first wave there, I believe. So, bit unfortunate there. It obviously helps to get the Akali through these early levels as much as you can. She's not as strong in those early tradings after lots and lots of nerfs to her Q cost, to her sustain, to etc. etc. But once you do hit level 6, that's when Jett comes into their own as this amazing dive player that they really can be.
Yeah, as we do take a look at the runes, it's also going to be Conqueror for Jett, so not going for the lane safety of something like the fleet footwork, the added sustain, going to be going towards that identity that we sort of mentioned in pregame, right, of going for a more scaling angle, but out-skilling in lane to make it worthwhile, not going to fall behind just because they've gone for a more scaling rune choice here. As we see the brush being camped by Enti and Honey. They're walking forward. The trade has been successful onto Asuka, although Enti taking perhaps a bit more damage on the back half than you would like, but wave control definitely squarely in their back pocket.
Yeah, they just want to push that one out as much as they can do, then get that early ward to start setting up the jungle tracking as best they can, right? This Kalista and Reynata, they can be so aggressive because it is that melee support in the Braum.
Yeah, it was the Ignite wasted early, as you do say. It was very, very aggressive. Not going to find the kill, but will force the flash. So definitely a big-chested, puffed-up, flexing move there from this Kalista Renata. They know they're supposed to hard win the early game, and they're going to do everything they can to make it happen.
Yeah, although Honey did miss a little bit of CS during this, so potentially Sangchu can get a bit of advantage, but Asuka really getting punished, who has struggled a bit this season, I won't lie to you. Definitely hasn't been the strongest performing member, and this might potentially be one of those chances of having to step it up as the game goes a little bit later on.
Yeah, the Braum going to offer some conditional engage, some peel for the carries. Definitely the low-key pick. You can provide a lot of value, but I don't think a lot of people will say you're the MVP or the most valuable, but as long as Asuka can find some contributions towards a win, I'm sure the rest of the team will appreciate it greatly. It starts with shepherding Sangchu through this early lane phase where Honey and Enti are going to be giving him no end of hell. Speaking of, Paz landing a lot of damage on the Eliashi.
Yeah, absolutely. Paz making this matchup look pretty okay for the GP, which in the early game it really isn't too bad. A bit of mana issues here though, and with Swamp moving up, likely wanting to do those Crocs, but the dive is a possibility. It's a very difficult one to execute on though, so I would be surprised if we see that one come through.
Yeah, going to keep the illusion of the choice alive, going to preserve it there by taking these Krugs and eyeing it up a little bit is Swamp, but these post-durability update turrets are bangers, and that's Sangchu forced to cleanse there. Double sums burned for the side of AXIZ, and Enti's Ignite going to be back in due course. They are really struggling here in the early.
Yeah, they're keeping pace with the CS relatively well, but the problem is all of those potions being used up by Sanctuary already. Same here with Asuka. It's one of those where eventually you're going to get chunked out of lane, and from there, you're eventually going to start bleeding turret gold from the plates, even if you haven't already done so.
Yeah. Enti, a player who does so well on the protective supports. I feel like Renata's such a good fit with the unique combination of capabilities it offers to a composition, conditional engage, but that bailout for Honey, if well-timed, could be such a big turning point in this game, and by getting ahead early in lane, they're just trying to accelerate their capability to take over these fights as a duo, as they do so often, but we haven't seen the fruits of any of it yet, cresting that 5-minute mark. It's the kind of game that has come to be played this split around the world, and basically always in the LJL. No kills as of yet. We'll have to look to that first Hextech Drake, perhaps, for our first sign of some bloodthirsty action between these two squads.
Yeah, but what has come to fruition is that gank in the mid lane from once earlier on. Because, yes, it didn't kill, yes, it didn't blow the flash of Megumin, but what it did end up doing is generating enough of a HP difference. The Megumin was forced to use potions, was forced to use a lot of mana, and on top of that, Jett has now been able to secure a decent amount of a CS lead. And yes, they've now traded the teleports, but with that Hextech Alternator, this Akali essentially has kill threat now once you do hit that level 6 mark. So it creates a nice dynamic here within that mid lane matchup, which is obviously going to benefit Sengoku.
Absolutely. The reset timer so much more favorable. Coming in with that alternator versus just the 2 amp tomes for Megaman has to put him on guard on this Azir. And with the winning lanes, once not afraid whatsoever to walk on over to this Drake and start whacking away on it. Enti and Honey going to come to back up the play, and this should be a easy breezy Hextech Dragon pickup.
Yeah, although Honey and Enti, they haven't quite been able to find the full advantage that I was expecting them to do so. I was hoping that they'd be up a little bit more. And in fact, not having those Berserkers groups come through just yet for Honey might potentially impact that matchup a little bit negatively too, as you don't really get as much of the jumps as you might necessarily want to sort of chase down and your prey when you do hit that level 6 mark with the double engages. So it's interesting that we do get the buys that we do get, but right now, up 5 CS, feeling quite chill, and I think across the board here, Sengoku feeling okay, but Swamp quietly having a decent farming game, getting into this one, and as the player to watch here for the side of AXIZ, it's nice to see this Viego starting to get the ball rolling, at least money-wise.
Yeah, definitely living up to the identity we expect from junglers in this day and age, picking up those camps. If the opportunity for a gank does present itself, going to have to be ready to snap, but for now, just trying to ensure that the economic backup is there, that you have the items to do the damage you need. Speaking of, it's starting to become quite the economic advantage for Jet in this mid lane. Up 20 CS, granted the wave's crashing, so there's some to be collected from Megaman, but not enough to make up the difference.
Yeah, and it's something that I think we were somewhat, expecting at least a little bit, and obviously that jungle gank did help to manipulate that a little bit in the favor of Jet, but someone who really does have arguably some of the best laning, at least here in the LJL. I think that there's not too many people that, if given a fair fight, even in a winning matchup, can typically exploit Jet, let alone have much of a chance of carrying the game off of it. It's usually someone who they will go stable in losing matchups, and if given a winning matchup, you just want to cry. So it's one of those that makes, I think, Sengoku such a hard team to play around, especially on red side, because you know that R5 counter pick is coming, and there's nothing you can do about it.
No, it's quite futile, unfortunately, to see this ball of death barreling towards you that is named Jet, our all-pro #1 laner there in the mid lane in split 1, but this is the gank coming through. Paz, though, not perturbed. He has the power of Citrus. No scurvy will be finding that dog up in the top lane. Just going to walk right away. But now Once and Swamp, they're both in the same quadrant, but Once is happy to start hitting this grab.
I mean, Orange, you glad he's got that ability. It's an incredible one for dealing with ganks, and I think it's a key one even for this Tryndamere matchup, right? Because as soon as that slow comes through, you orange it, you walk away, and pre-6, it doesn't really mean anything, because you don't have the damage to dive, you don't have the ultimate really to stop Paz from just tanking a bit of damage and walking away. So Yellow Yoshi now starting to hit that point where you can threaten longer all ends.
Yeah, the beginning of this trade not going super favorably, as Paz has been very on point with the barrels, even tagged one as Yellow Yoshi did dash through it, and now forced to burn that Undying Rage just to keep the dive from going through. Can't all in onto Once, so that's the ultimate use defensively from Yellow Yoshi up here. Maybe it leaves Honey vulnerable on the other side, though. The cross map was being looked at, but here comes Jet to back it up. He's in there with the perfect execution, looking to find more damage, coming out of the Shroud, gets the auto attacks down, the Conqueror stacking up, the Shuriken flip taken, the first blood secured now. Asuka could be the next to fall, as well as Honey gets in on the party. Sengoku Gaming doing what we expect and looking real good right now.
R5 and 5-star Jet looking clean on this one, dodging everything. Beautiful damage, and Yoshi, no.
Oh, you don't win that, buddy. Paz still has the flash Q to find the kill on their turret.
Layla Mao. Beautiful on the top side there for Paz. It's easy peasy there on the GP, and it doesn't get better now here for the Tryndamere. It's all about snowballing in this matchup, so when you fall behind, you're feeling rough, and just look at how clean this is from Jet. I mean, most mid laners, they'd say, oh, I'm walking into essentially a 1v3, maybe a 2v3 if I'm being generous. I shouldn't do this. Jet goes, nah, I'm gonna just take this one. Shuriken flips in, waits out the exhaust, knows that's going to cut the damage significantly. beautiful landing on the second one. And from there, it's just chasing in, easy peasy. And in the mid lane, it's a solo kill again, or rather a gank here from this Wukong. So another kill there for Jet in mid. And in the meantime, Paz, it's just too easy. The passive, the trial by fire is there. Parlay follow-up, you know the Q flash is coming. You can't flash from that, my friend.
Yeah, Yellow Yoshi was trying to bank on the RNG going in their favor, trying to find those lucky crits, but once you get chunked out to begin the trade without ult, had to spend all of the fury just to heal up and prevent the first opportunity for death to claim him, and then no more crit chance, no more kill chance, just a big old sad face for that Tryndamere up there. And now we do see the setup around this second Drake as we get another replay here. Break down how this kill happened for us.
Yeah, so this was happening during the last replay. Jet just chunks, and from here, once just shows up. You know the Cyclone's coming, but there's not much you can do as the Azir does try to get out, but unfortunately gets interrupted on the dash. And from here, it's just a little bit too easy.
It's happened again here, Recollect. Yellow Yoshi finding the kill during the replay. Had that ultimate back up, but thankfully has the Q there to use up that fury, not die to the turret shot on the back half. Would have been embarrassing, but AXIZ picking something up on the back half.
I love the fact the main broadcast has given up on big screen replays because it just keeps happening. But yeah, just a case of this is what Tryndamere can do, right? When you are given the chance, you just reach a point in the game where you just sort of run them down, and there's nothing anyone can do. This is just what the champ can do when he gets ahead, and it wasn't even that ahead now, but the chance to snowball is definitely on the cards here for Yellow Yoshi.
Yeah, definitely picked up lots of plates in the aftermath as well, so going to do a lot to equalize that gold lead a little bit, which was starting to balloon heavily for Sengoku. Still at about 1.2k, more than you'd want at 12 minutes, but a manageable amount as Jet getting poked out a tad by Megaman is not going to have any inherent sustain on this character as of right now. Not the Akali it once was pre-rework, right? So going to have to deal with the reset off that there after resetting the waves to a neutral state, and Paz going to try and cash in on some plates of his own.
I know this is completely off topic, but I just thought I would theory craft on the fly. I wonder if anyone will ever just run exhaust into Tryndamere for this exact reason, because then you never reach a point where the dive is as obtainable. In that
we saw that in some regions in spring. No, I could be misremembering. It's definitely a sound idea.
I actually think it'd be an interesting one to explore, because then if you're side laning and he can never dive you, you're feeling pretty good as GP. Plus, you still have ulti pressure to apply something to team fights. I don't know. It could be something to explore. Anyway, though, what isn't worth exploring is that Herald, because that got literally zero value. That was unfortunate. But in the bot side, you did still keep Honey there, so some plates going down here.
Yeah, as we do see a bit of a scrum brewing in that bot side jungle of AXIZ. They did manage to get the red buff onto Swamp, but that was definitely one of those classic farming your camps, and then the whole screen goes purple, and you go, wait, I still have that Rift Herald? Dive not coming through. They were thinking about it, but not going to risk it here. Instead, just going to steal away some camps from the enemy jungler is once.
Yeah, Megaman's going to try and contest a couple of those, but it only gets a few. It definitely makes sense looking for that dive. I feel like you could have gone for it, but potentially would just worry that they might throw the game. I mean, if your Kalista ever dies in this lane, you basically just become non-existent for the rest of the match. So it makes sense that you don't really want to risk the dive, give Aphelios 4 kills, and go, I'm in danger. This is a rough one, buddy. You know, it checks out. But either way, looking at the gold graphs, the top lane is definitely looking like the rich boys, but Jet helping to caveat that through these kills in the mid lane.
Yeah, as it could be the first turret cracking at any moment in one of these solo lanes. Jet applying lots of pressure here. Both of those tier 1s in the top lane hanging on by a sliver, but we do start to see the mythic items coming on through for these characters here on the screen. The Leandry's Torment for the Azir going to be applying some poke damage, some sustained damage. It's a nice jack-of-all-trades item, but Asuka, unfortunately, you can't walk forward to get vision in your own jungle sometimes. It's just the life of a support. Going to be a clean pickup for Sengoku right around the second Herald spawn.
I was going to say, we ain't cracking, but we got the shield bow coming through online, as well as the Gale Force here as well for the 2 carries. So they're starting to get into the game. And this Kalista, known for sort of 1.5 items, right? This champion becomes a monster during that time window, but hasn't really been able to generate, again, as much of a lead as I would have liked. But still have about 20 CS. It's not bad. But it's worth noting that Sengoku, they kind of need to keep the ball rolling here. You've always got to worry about Azir late game, Aphelios late game. Even Tryndamere has shown the amount of pressure it can apply in this side lane if given that chance, right? And Paz might be getting run down again.
Yeah, I don't think the remove scurvy is going to be enough to save you this time, Paz, although trying to play with the movement speed of the barrels, not going to happen. Going to instead be picked up by the Tryndamere there. They did commit the Ghost and the Heartbreaker, but in the end, I think that is more than a price you are willing to pay, although the cross-map play coming on through from Sengoku in the other side lane, going to pick up a tier 2, so the gold trade going to be very favorable for them, as those tier 2s are worth so much money.
And they could look to dive mid too. They have that Herald as an opportunity if they want to take it. Instead, they're just going to take those resets potentially here for their Renata. It's an unfortunate one. I think the opportunity was there to just secure that one, but likely wanted to make sure they were on the map for the Dragon instead, which is perfectly understandable. They want to get themselves to Soul Point as fast as possible. But instead, maybe we see them run it down mid, drop that Herald, force movement then to answer that one, and then from there you can guarantee yourself at least positioning here for this Dragon, as well as having good itemization because you've had the chance to base recently.
Absolutely. That priority generation with the second Herald for a Soul Point Drake. A nice, standard, clean play that Sengoku can lean upon here. Hopefully get a little bit more value out of this Herald than the first one.
Yeah, and on top of that, if it just crashes, it'll be the mid-tower falling, and from there, setting up that vision control is so much easier. So, would like to see them at least escort a little bit better, which, credit to them, they've managed to do.
Yep. They will pick up that tier 1 there and give themselves a full avenue to back up once on this Windrake, which they should pick up without contest. It's going to be Yeliashi, the only member in the area, completely blind. Not a whole lot of chance at a steal, no Jinx rockets, nothing like that. So Soul Point is picked up for Sengoku here. It's been clean, breezy sailing along for them in this one so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And this time, it is actually a Wind Dragon, not the electric Wind Dragon from the last game. So, nice to see the spaghetti code has been ironed out, as Jet might be looking for Yellow Yoshi.
Yeah, the Undying Rage is available, but how much can it buy you here? Already popped, now the Handshake trying to get Tryndamere out from under the turret, going to take the Gale Force away, but the Proto Belt proc does find it at max distance. One of those puny little rockets blew up an Undying Warrior King. Feels bad.
Yeah, it checks out. I think that's lore specific there. The power of the Hex tech is a little bit too strong. Shout out to my boy Jace from Arcane. Anyway, in the meantime, we do get that top tower falling when that Dragon obviously was being prepared. So a little bit of that gold influx into this Azir, and it's nice to see them targeting this Tryndamere, but there is a strange sense of inevitability in regards to it. It's a bit like Thanos, because the longer this one goes, the more you are expecting that they'll start to win as this Tryndamere picks. So I do wonder whether or not Sengoku are going to be able to push the tempo effectively, because they've always been ahead in the majority of their games, right? It feels as though they were inevitably scaling to the win. This time around, they're the ones that are on the timer. They're the ones that need to push the tempo, and they're the ones that need to make sure that they don't make too many mistakes, because if you do, the game just goes later and later, and Mega Man.
Yeah, that's a shuffle going to come out, but he doesn't take the E. He's forced to flash. The mechanical misplay going to doom him there. Now Asuka, the subject of Jet's ire, just going to Shuriken flip out, though. Feels bad for Mega Man to blow the summoner, to blow the ultimate, and still get taken down by Jet. And to speak to your point, Sengoku is punishing and continuing the snowball rolling down the hill sublimely right now. They have to keep pushing the pace. They have to keep their lead up, lest the scaling catch up to them, and they're doing exactly what they need to right now.
Yeah, if there's anyone who knows how to tunnel on the Jets, it's the man with the name. It's easy enough to pick up that kill there in the side lane, and Megabean unfortunately does end up getting blown up. So I guess the name's really checking out this time around. It's just this Akali is just so strong, right? And once you do get this lead, you have no reason not to just be in Azir's face at all times. And unfortunately for Megabean, it's not easy for the rest of the team to really support this situation, because if you do move into that side lane, then this Renata are just going to push down that mid lane. They're just going to slowly but surely chip away on your mid tower, and Akali is just so evasive, This W is so useful for that exact reason. Same with the ulti, same with the E. You can move around so much, and there's not a lot of lockdown available here for AXIZ. I mean, it is one of the few things that their comp really doesn't have a lot of answers to. And on top of that, NT.
Yeah, it does pop the Shirelias to dodge out on the Glacial Fissure, so that is some big cooldowns exchanged via the supports right there. Is so often it feels like how we see the action start in these tense positions, right? Both of those supports trying to jockey for the forward vision line, and sometimes it leads to getting caught out, but there it was just sort of a stare down, no real results. Will be mid lane power for AXIZ, though.
Let's say that's the result it does lead to, is the fact that now NT doesn't really feel comfortable to try and walk mid here, because you can't really walk past the members in order to support your AD carry. And unfortunately for Honey, there is a couple of people there that'll happily just dive bomb you under the tower, so you can't solo defend this. With no one there to back you up, you've just got to give mid tower, and it feels a little bit sloppy, but this teleport might be trying to make up for that.
Yeah, Jet trying to capitalize off the back half. Ozga and Sangchu are the target into the Shroud in the back line. Finds the kill with the help of once going into the Cyclone. Now Ozga will be taken out as well. It's pure domination from these divers on Sengoku, and they're moving right to the Baron.
Yeah, it's all going wrong here for the side of AXIZ. They've looked good so far, but unfortunately, it seems like Sengoku might just be one step above. This 5k gold lead is definitely going to increase once they secure this Baron buff, and there's no chance of a Viego contest too far away, already on those Raptors. And it's just Jet taking over the game again and again. I mean, we discussed in the pre-game, it's like, okay, what do you think of this matchup here for AXIZ? It's like, well, Jet's just going to take over the game. There you go. Jet is just disgustingly good at this game. I don't know what else to say about this one. It's just a little bit of a once spotting one out, and Jet just pulls the trigger. There's no hesitation here on this Akali pick. Just jumps over the wall, and from here, what are you going to do? Already showed 1v3, and Sangchu just gets absolutely blown up already. Can't really help anymore at all, and once does the rest of it, but Jet will happily secure a kill for themselves.
Yeah, with all those cooldowns up, no Gravitum available for Sangchu, no self-peel tools, just absolutely eliminated, as is an ADC's lot in life when the opposing assassin is fed, and when it's Jet on that opposing assassin, it gets even harder to escape. This will secure the soul for the side of Sengoku. They are absolutely cruising. Now you have Paz in the side lane. This GP going to be so effective at pushing down these turrets.
At this point, you're kind of just praying for a numbers advantage situation where Azir gets to create some sort of engage, because unless you've got Moonlight Vigil being Gravitum, it's very hard to set up as AXIZ, which is really awkward in terms of coming back into the game, because you don't have that easy setup tool to enable any sort of team fighting. You are very reliant on mistakes here from Sengoku, and unfortunately, when it comes to teams in the LJL that make mistakes, Sengoku isn't the first one I point to.
No, they are definitely above the realm of the V3s of the world. That is for sure. As they are just going to continue this clean sweep. It's now or never for the side of AXIZ. It was the Glacial Fissure coming out, and now Yeliashi from the flank, but it just does nothing. It's just half health bars across the side of AXIZ. Sengoku absolutely unperturbed and unbothered. They have taken all of the outer turrets this game. The base is the last thing left in their sights.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it feels like AXIZ just being cut down here by the Samurai of Sengoku. They're feeling, honestly, like a really clean team. They're doing their steps properly, setting up the vision, denying all of these camps, making sure that they slowly but surely inflate their advantages, and it just feels like they are in complete control. The next step for me is I want to see them, at least if they are able to secure the next Baron, of course, that they start to set up their waves a little bit more effectively, because it feels like the crash timing isn't quite right, and that's kind of slowing their ability to pressure multiple lanes at the same time.
Yeah, we will see if they can keep it up through those multiple lanes of pressure. Will require that juggling of members that you mentioned, but it could be the last sort of angle left for AXIZ to find a comeback. They've had one decent punish that they immediately paid for with their AD carry's life in this game by taking that mid lane tier 1 and the objective bounty that was associated with it. Getting a lot harder for them to find anything on the map to do that with this time around, even if they can find a punish on these spread out members.
And I think it's really cool that you mentioned that, because Sengoku have done one thing very well, and it's even when AXIZ makes a good play, Sengoku go, no, that was actually really bad. How about we just punish you for that? You know, it's like they got the dive in bot lane, which was one of the kills. It's like, great, we killed your GP, and they're like, yeah, but how about we just take top inner tower in exchange?
Yeah.
And then we also just scare you away from mid and then set up for dragon and get mid tower afterwards. So they lost one member and a tower in exchange, got a sequence of 2 and a dragon. And it's like, okay, well, that's brilliant. And then the same thing happening again with the mid tower. It's like, oh, you got our tower. Well, how about we just kill two of you and just essentially just win the game? It's like crazy. This team is just fantastic in that regard. I think it's really impressive to see, and it shows a level of cohesion and understanding of general map states that I wasn't really expecting to see when sort of watching the split so far. Especially not so early on in the summer split, I think, given that we are only a couple of days in.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, Sengoku just showing up game day after game day, playing to the nines as we see Honey looking for an aggressive punish into a blind brush, not afraid on this 80 carry to start it off for once, who comes on in with the Cyclone. Now the Cannon Barrage over the top as well. Asuka going to fall. How many times am I going to say that? This game is Yellow Yashi forced to go into the Undying Rage, trying to desperately trade 1-for-1, but it's just not going to happen. Sengoku continuing to dominate here in this game, and it's not over yet. It was a nice Moonlight Vigil, but it won't be enough. It'll be the double kill for Jet. It'll be Mega Man getting blasted off the map. It'll be the full-on ace for Sengoku.
Yeah, and they have a top wave to work with. They could try and walk towards top, maybe try and end the game through there. Instead, they're going to just use this bot wave. I don't know if the death timers are long enough just yet. They'll definitely get themselves the inhib, maybe two. Not sure if the game is going to end off of this one, though.
Yeah, they are going to find these tier 3 turrets. They are going to find these inhibitors, and whether they take the game here or not, they have full control to walk up to this Baron in just 50 seconds time, to walk up to this Elder in a minute and a half, but they're just going to go for the full Monty. They're finding Asuka under turret. Jet is going to get exhausted, but it just doesn't matter. It's the second ace, the delayed ace coming through. It might have been enough time bought farming kills instead of farming turrets here that AXIZ gets to live to fight another minute, but there's stuff to be taken.
Yeah, and crucially, TP blown at the very end there as well. We'll talk about that in a second. Honey just sort of walking in, doesn't seem to care. Asuka does. I'm getting caught out now once it's in, and it's just a case of running down the Brom. You can't do much if you're all alone. And yes, the Glacial Fisher will buy some space, but it's just the solo queue classic of the controversial one at a time strat striking. And they look for something here with Moonlight Vigil, but there's no damage really. It's going to be one, but one's now caught.
Yeah, does have the Cyclone for the self-peel, though. Plenty of sustain, and he has Jet in his back pocket, so it's just not going to matter. This Akali is absolutely nasty coming through from Jet. It's 17-3 in favor of Sengoku. They're not done yet. They have the Cloud Soul. They're chasing them down, just absolutely dominating them are Sengoku. Going under the tier 3 is once to find Asuka. Honey going to be the beneficiary of that one, as Enti going to try and find the bailout, but the bailout shall not come through. It will be economic ruin for that Chem Baroness, but not for her team, who are going to find the Nexus turrets, and most likely the win here is Mega Man chunked out. They do find one in return. I don't know if it's enough. I don't think it will be. This Nexus going to be focused out. Mega Man and Sangchu just kind of staring, looking for a last-ditch play, but Honey hitting the Nexus, just dancing and dashing around, goes into shield bow, but it will be the win for Sengoku there. Clean and easy as you